Hey everybody. In today's video we have new gear. It's a very affordable die set called the Platen dies. It's something that I had an idea for a couple years ago. I handed it off to Buckle Guy. They hit a home run. And they added to it, they made it better, and they added a bunch of accessories with it as well. It is a little die set that's about 35 bucks, and what it does is it basically doubles the functionality of your hand or foot press and turns it into basically a press that you can use stamp small brands and stuff like that with. My goal was to just add more functionality to a press because it's nice to have a foot press that will set rivets and snaps and all that stuff. That in and of itself is great. But if you can add the stamping ability, then you basically remove the need for an arbor press or whatever you may use to add your brand. And that's what this does. So without further ado, let's get into an overview of the Platen dies, and then we'll get into what Buckle Guys added to their line as well that you can use with them. Some monogramming stuff it's really cool. So the idea for this was really simple. I had my friend Sean weld up. I made a little sketch. He took some measurements from the press, and he welded these up. And the idea is that this just screws into the press, this part slides into the base, and you can put your stamp here, your leather in, boom, done. It's the size of a regular arbor press, and you don't have to do all the cranking that you do with an arbor press usually. I know people modify them and stuff, but this is just an easier solution if you already have one of the presses from Buckle Guy. So I handed this off to them, and a few months later, we have the first run of the production Platen dies, they're calling them. Now these are stainless steel. You have your top piece here with the thread, and you have your bottom piece here, nice and shiny. And there's not really much else to say besides they look great and they're solid stainless steel. So let's go over to the press and I'll show you how they work. It's a fairly simple setup. Just like any other die, we're going to screw this top piece onto the top part of the press like this, and then up here you adjust how deep you want it. So it's going to be different if you're using like monogram sets. You're going to want it lower like this, and then you use this nut here to make sure that nothing moves around. Now if you're using, this is my brass stamp that I've had for years, obviously you're going to want a bigger gap. So you just adjust that for whatever you're using and you're good to go. Of course the press comes with this hand and foot press, this whole setup. Is expensive. With the base and everything, I think it's like 1,200 bucks. But this adds so much more functionality that you're essentially replacing. If you don't do any die cutting, you don't really need another press. You don't need an arbor press. You don't need anything besides this one machine, and you can do all your branding and setting and cut everything out by hand. And this is really the only machine that you're going to need. I'm going to use the wrench that comes with the press and just tighten down this top nut here. That'll make sure. I had it tight, I want to loosen it and tighten it again. Just make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. And then we can tighten this one down as well using the other wrench. So we're going to slide one here, turn in separate ways, and we're good to go. Then comes the easy part. We're going to take our brand, slide it in, put it right on top of the Platen die, and you can see this will come undone pretty easily. So once you get this exactly where you want it, as far as distance is concerned, you're going to be good to use this thing repeatedly. So I'm just going to press down, put a fair amount of pressure on it. Now this is a cold stamp, so it's not, there's no heat, there's no water, there's no nothing. And we have a nice little logo. Now this is a small square, but you can also do, here's a long one. Now this is the text. I do my stamp in two pieces because, I don't know, glutton for punishment, I guess. But this stamp actually extends out, if we look, this stamp extends out past the edges of this. Now, the top and the bottom are the same size, so you obviously would not be able to press these sides. However, a lot of stamps will measure further, but your stamping area is smaller, so it still works fine with something like that. As long as the area you're stamping in fits on the die, then you're good to go. So I'm going to line this up a little bit and press down, and then really press down. And there we go. So this is it's exactly 1/3 of the stamps that come in the acrylic stamp set that Platen sells. They're all made out of acrylic. They come in this bag with a whole bunch of stuff. And the way these work is really interesting because they kern, which is the distance in between each letter. They kern automatically. You have a tall section that's going to be what you're actually stamping. These are so small that my hands are dwarfing them. I think they have 1/2 inch and 1 inch. I got the 1/2 inch ones. Then you have a little set. So looking at the letters, you have a little letter setting tool here. That's half the depth of the actual letter itself. So when you line them up in the press, which is over that way, the press will punch the letter, or it'll press the letter, and it won't leave an indent of the holder itself. The other cool thing about the holders is, I'm just going to grab whatever one I can reach here. They interlock into each other. So you see you have these, that's upside down. You have these two notches. Now every one is kerned individually. Kerning is the space in between the two letters, so you're going to have a nice visually pleasing distance between the two. I can't really do it on my hands, but yeah, there you go. So I've adjusted the height of the Platen die now, because the letter dies for monogramming, etc., are much shorter than my logo die. And it's much easier than an actual using the big turny thing on the big set adjustment thing on a press for monogramming. So hopefully we have this kind of right. I'm gonna put all my weight on it. Let's see how we did. There we go. Nice monogram. Now if you want to go a little bit deeper, what you can do is adjust this up, which will give you a little more throw on the foot press. Let's see. And of course it is going to be a little trial and error, but what you can do is once you get the distances, you can just mark them on the screw with silver Sharpie, so you know where on the fly where you want to screw to. And you'll see, giving it more, the further down we can get this foot press, the more pressure we're going to get. There you go. Now that's a nice deep. I would be totally happy with that. That's about what I aim for. Can you use the Platen dies on the small hand press? Absolutely. You just want to make sure, because you don't have as much power, which is fine for setting everything else, you want to make sure that you case your leather and that you're using a slim stamp, which I'll show you some magnesium stamps. You can also get brass stamps in this thinness. My other ones just happen to be big stamps because they were made for a lot of use. And I've had them for like 10 years. So I'm just going to, I'm losing weight, so my shirt's getting too big. I've cased the leather, which is just dampening it with a sponge and water. And I'm going to press down. And this should give us, there we go, a really beautiful impression. So here's a brass stamp that you would use with the hand press. And you have to remember, it's really cool. You know, the hand press is a couple $100, and that die, and the Platen dies are 30 some odd. So you're getting, you know, the functionality. If you don't use cutting dies, you're getting that functionality in just a very inexpensive press, and it's pretty much on par with, I remember, now this is 10, 15 years ago, I spec'd out a modified arbor press to do this. And the nice thing is that you don't have to crank, you don't have to crank everything over and over again. It's just one movement. You will get a little bit more pressure out of an arbor press, but with the foot press on the new hand and foot press, that's like kind of the ultimate setup. That's been a really good setup for me because you don't risk throwing your shoulders out or anything like that. It's all just leg strength. And then this is a very old, I think it's 2015, yeah. This is magnesium. You can see these are both pretty thin. Those are going to be what you want to use if you're using the smaller hand press. That can handle bigger stuff. And you don't need the foot press to use it either. You can use the hand press as well. I've tested it on this guy with the hand attachment, and it works great. And so that's going to be it. We have our new Platen die. We have, you can see the sample. Thanks, Sean, for welding these up for me. Really appreciate it. And yeah, without you guys, none of this stuff gets made. So thank you guys so much for your continued support in all of these products. Yeah, that's going to be about it. I don't really have anything else to say. It's two pieces of metal that work really well to put your logo on things if you're doing leather work. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.